Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have a very inspiring show coming right up with special guest, Kac Young, and she's here today to share with us her new book, Essential Oils for Beginners, a guide to what they are and how to use them. Now, Kac has been a producer, writer, and director in the Hollywood television industry for over 25 years. She earned her PhD in natural health and a doctorate in naturopathy. She also completed 36 courses in nutrition from Baylor University. Clients come to her for advice on health, nutrition, and spiritual well-being. Her third doctorate degree is in clinical hypnotherapy, where she helps people manage weight, smoking, modify behaviors, reduce stress, and do past life regression and manage phobias. So let's welcome to the show, Kac Young.
Thank you so much, Marianne. It's always a pleasure to be on with you.
Oh my gosh, I so love the time we spend together. I'm so excited to hear about this book because, my goodness, you really break it down. And a lot of times people are like, essential oils, what the heck is that? What do I do with this?
Well, I know, and there's so many people out there that are selling them that don't know what they're talking about. And essential oils are absolutely brilliant, but they also have a level of danger to them if you don't know how to handle them. It's kind of like bleach. If you put too much in your washer, you're going to have a disaster. And if you put too little, you're not going to have the effect. And so we're dealing with a chemical here. We're dealing with a chemical compound. So it serves us well to take a little bit of time to get to know what they are, where they came from, and what they can do for us. And it's just an entirely rich landscape that we can utilize for our emotional, spiritual, and physical well-being.
So why don't we start from the beginning? What exactly are essential oils?
Okay, essential oils are, strangely enough, they're not oils at all. They've simply acquired that name because they don't mix with water, just like regular oils don't. But they are a vital liquid present inside all living plants. It's a natural solution of various complex chemical constituents that the plant makes inside of itself to protect itself. But scientifically, essential oils are concentrated, aromatic, volatile plant compounds. Now, volatile means that they can change their state or they can evaporate easily. It doesn't mean they're going to blow up in your face, although some of them can catch fire. But they're mostly derived from the flowers, leaves, stems, fruits, and seeds of the plant, and some are even extracted from the bark, the roots, and even the sap of certain trees. So they come in all shapes and sizes and types, but pretty much every living plant produces a chemical compound or several in themselves that prevent viruses, bacteria, and other invaders from hurting the plant.
So why don't you share a little bit about the history of essential oils for us? Because I know you go into great detail in your book, but I sometimes people may not realize how long they've been with us. This isn't just something that popped up in the 70s and 60s.
Well, exactly. And when I was researching this book, I've been using essential oils for 30 plus years. And I started out just buying some lavender at the Bodhi tree in Los Angeles and using it to get to sleep, really, using the aroma to sleep with. And I said, well, that's a pleasant experience. And then I began to expand, but it was kind of a do-it-yourself thing. And I started to read about them wherever I could. And this was in the 80s, I think, late 70s, 80s, and I began to accumulate my knowledge. But when I really, really, really got into researching it, I was stunned to find out that there's proof of essential oils back as far as 1850. 18,000 years ago in the caves of Dordogne, France. There were leftovers that not only in the drawings and etchings of herbs on the walls, but they also found herbal essences and plant oils in some of the vessels that they unearthed when they found this. Well, I don't know. I guess it's a prehistoric, not prehistoric, but I guess pre-Iron Age even group in 18,000 years ago. It was just amazing to me. And then the Chinese also, about 5,000 years ago, they began to use peppermint for a couple of things. They used it for mental problems, and they also used it in childbirth. So many societies, including the Egyptians, well, the Egyptians were famous because they used a lot of essential oils in their embalming process. They thought that these would keep away the bugs, keep away any kind of invaders, and also preserve the tissue in the skin. And they weren't wrong. Look, we still have mummies to this day that have been preserved. And there was a really interesting guy in the 1st century. He lived from I think 950 to BCE to just a little over the 1st century, and his name was Avicenna, and he started to refine essential oils. He started with roses. And the first original rose oil came from Syria, and he perfected some of these oils using a still, an alembic still, that was invented by a woman. It was not Cleopatra the Seventh, the one that was famous for marrying Julius Caesar, but this was another Cleopatra who invented the alembic still, and that allowed him to process the plants, boil the water, separate the oil from the water, use the water as a hydrosol or as a byproduct that could also be valuable but was less strong. And so he began to then process things like cedar oil, peppermint oil, the rose oil, and some of the other ancient oils that we can read about in the Bible. It's quite interesting that as far back as then, he perfected around the 1st century, right before the 1st century, he perfected the process of making essential oils. And that still, Avicenna still was in the Middle East and still functioning until about 1850.
Oh my goodness, that is just amazing. I mean, this is an easy to read book, but you've done a lot of great research for it. What were some of the surprising things that you discovered?
Well, this is just my personal taste, but I found that the herbs were banned in the Middle Ages for the use of the public. The public was not supposed to use herbs to heal themselves or any kind of essential oils because the Catholic Church decided that you couldn't take a bath, that you could take a bath once a year. Otherwise, it was sinful, and it led to not only breathing problems if you took a bath, but it also added to, because they were men and women, there were co-ed baths in those times, it led to promiscuity. So the Catholic Church says, okay, that's it, no bathing. In order to cover up the body odor, people began importing and using essential oils. I mean, sort of like anything to sweeten the room. It was also prominent in the court of Louis XIV for the same reason at Versailles, because there was no real facilities there, so everybody smeared themselves with perfume and essential oils as much as they could in order to be able to just have a decent conversation with somebody. I mean, talk about social distancing. That was kind of it in the Middle Ages. Mm-hmm. So I love the fact that because bathing was banned, essential oils products went sky high. They came across two two places. They came across the Silk Road from China, and they also came up from the Middle East on the Arabic trade routes that they had. So that's what kind of fueled the use of essential oils and eventually the perfume business in Paris, France.
Oh my goodness, that is very interesting. But you look at it and it's like, well, what else are you going to do? I mean, if they ban bathing for once a year, of course you're going to try to use perfumes, essential oils to help with that.
Yeah, and I know that even in India, there's a process, a healing process called Ayurveda, and it's based on the three types of bodies that we have. And in Ayurveda, they always want to either cool something or heat something up, and they do it by using specialty oils. So it's been in every civilization, because I think what happens in history is that somebody conquers a land and they go, what are you using? Well, that's very cool. So I think, let me take that back to my homeland. And the Crusaders brought the essential oils and the processes with them from the Middle East after they did their Lawrence of Arabia thing. Then they came back to Europe and they had all the secrets and the products that Avicenna manufactured in the Middle East. So it's really a product of part conquering and wars as much as it is standard trade.
Well, we have seen a lot of essential oils on the market, used in various forms. Why are they helpful to us?
Well, they're helpful because they're made to protect plants. Plants make the volatile compounds in order to protect themselves. And so when we choose the particular oil that we need to solve a problem within our bodies, it goes right to work. I think they're valuable for a couple of reasons. One is that they are natural, but that doesn't mean that they're safe. The second thing is that they are available to us to use because it comes from the plant kingdom, so we can it's a sustainable product. We can grow more plants and we can extract some of the product out of them. And the last thing is the way that they work. If we inhale we're inhaling molecules, the molecules of the essential oils as they are dispersed into the air. Those molecules travel across our olfactory system into the limbic part of the brain, and the brain is where it crosses the blood-brain barrier and triggers chemical reactions for us. Now, that relates to how it affects the body and how it fixes things. So something that is antibacterial and antiviral, for example, will go into the body and it will trigger the responses in the body for antibacterial and antiviral. It will go down there and do its job, and it will kill off what is there that's affecting or attacking our organism, our bodies. And when it's done, it is extracted by the liver. So if we take an antihistamine, for example, we're probably a few decades later going to have minute traces of that compound in our bodies. But essential oils are different. We ingest them, not take them in. We never, you never consume them through your mouth. Ingesting them by inhaling them. So you inhale them and or you put them on your skin diluted. You bring that into your body and the body uses it. It conquers or solves the problem, and then it excretes from the body, and there is no traces left. It's a very clean way to deal with an invader or an infection or a wound. Lavender, for example, is a great wound healer, as is helichrysum. And those essential oils, when diluted with another proper carrier oil, can be placed on a wound, and it can help the healing. It can help or stimulate the tissues to regenerate. So the essential oils used correctly can help us in our life, and we can avoid using another chemical that possibly could stay with us for the rest of our lives.
Well, I'm so glad that you clarified that, because I think a lot of times people get a little confused on the different uses of essential oils. While there may be some, like maybe peppermint, that may be okay to ingest, that they're saying that, you really, we're not suggesting that you do that. And some of these can be very poisonous.
Yes, they can be very poisonous. They can be. And so the way you approach it is that you want to always buy organic or 100% pure oils. There's another thing called wild crafted. You can buy that as well. But don't buy anything that doesn't have 100% pure, wild crafted, or organic on it, because you're putting a very condensed, highly powerful element into your body or on your body. And I mean because you inhale it and it goes into your body. I don't ever mean that you drink it or put it in your water and consume it that way. So when you're doing that with an essential oil, you have to make sure that you're using pure, top of the line. As with anything, when it becomes popular, competitors go out there and say, well, here, let me just buy up a bunch of this stuff and I'll just cut it with this oil and I'll sell it as this. So you have to be very, very careful what you're getting. You don't want to go to a department store and just pick up, oh, look at this, 3 for $10. I think I'll put that in my cart. No, you want to pay a little bit more money for the right, pure product, and then you know that you're putting the best possible thing in your body that you can. And you then can trust it to do its job. There are a lot of I'm going to use the word bottlers. There are a lot of people who work with the growers around the world, and they fly there and they make sure that they are growing it correctly, that they are living up to the standards, that when it's imported, it isn't shipped in hot cargo holds, that it is temperature controlled. They want to make sure that it is correctly put in either the kegs, the cans, or the bottles to be brought over here. And they regulate this industry. They self-regulate in the most beautiful way, so that we're getting the product that if it is labeled in a certain way, that's what we're getting. The FDA is not part of this, and so the community of growers and producers and retailers try to make sure that everything is as we say it is. In Europe, there are tighter controls. They have a sign that says biologique or organic, which means that it has to conform to certain government standards. I am hoping that will happen in the U.S. so that we really know our product is tested and regulated by a government authority. In the meantime, only buy from places and people that advertise organic, and study up a little bit. You want to make sure that these people are really sincere about what they're doing. Most of the people that I buy from and have a relationship with are outstanding individuals who understand the power of essential oils and are really, that's their passion. They want to do right in the world. So that's very helpful to know. But we protect ourselves. We want to buy the best that we can, and then just buy less. If you can't afford 5 of them at a higher price, then just get 3. And then you can start with those and add to your collection as you learn more and more about the essential oils.
So, and they should probably check in with their doctor first too, as well, just to see if they're going to have any any kind of issues with any medication they're taking.
That's exactly right. And I am a big believer that this is complementary, not alternative medicine. And you always use it in adjunct to your physician's advice and to your own research as well. You're right. There are certain essential oils that are not good to work with certain medications you're taking or certain types of situations your body is in. For example, if you're pregnant or nursing, there are some essential oils that you should stay away from in the first trimester, and some you should stay away from while you're pregnant. So in both of my books, I talk about those standards absolutely under safety, and there's warnings on everything about what you do and do not want to use at different times of your life. For example, if you're using something on a child, you would dilute it a lot as you would for an older person, because their skin is so tender and the dermis is right at the top, and it can be much more potent to a younger person or an older person, and you don't want to overdose them, if you will, with essential oils, because there can be side effects.
So, we talked about medicine just a little bit ago. Why would someone take essential oils when they can take medications or medicines?
Well, it's a choice, isn't it? Essential oils allows you to have a choice. And I know that if I am going to need something, if I have a stuffy nose, for example, the first thing I'm going to try are my essential oils. They have properties that can release the congestion in my nose. And first of all, they're right here. Second of all, I know how to use them. And third of all, they're not going to leave any residue, any chemical compounds in my body, because once they're finished doing their job, they're going to be excreted, because they have properties. All the essential oils have properties, have different properties. Some are analgesics, which means they can affect the nervous system and they can subdue pain. Some have anti-inflammatory properties, sorry,
Mm-hmm.
and those properties can help reduce swelling. They can reduce even bruising in certain times, because they will help. They will help the blood and the oxygenation within the body get to where the wound is, and that's how they can reduce the swelling to a bruise or any kind of something that you've done to yourself that's painful. And that if you twist an ankle, I would put a compress, for example, on that while I'm figuring out how bad it is, but I would try and bring down the swelling. That's what sports medicine people do. They use ice for that reason. And I use my essential oils, and I either use a hot compress or a cold compress, depending on the severity of what I'm dealing with. Also, many of them have antiseptic properties that can heal microbial invaders. They can ward them off. Some are antifungal, so they will help prevent the growth of fungi or ringworm. And many of them are antiviral, so they can be antibacterial and antiviral at the same time, like tea tree. And some of them are sedative. They can help calm down the emotions. They can induce better sleep. And some are energizers. Some can pick you up and make you feel better and have a lot more energy.
So you mentioned children and the elderly a little bit ago. Can we use essential oils on our pets as well?
No. There are some cases. In fact, I'm taking a course to get a certification in the animal use of essential oils, but it's a very difficult area. Horses can deal with essential oils much more effectively than any other type of animal. You can use compounds on them. You can use compresses. You can help their hooves. You can help their wounds. Their bodies are different, and their elimination system is very different. A cat, for example, has no enzymes with which to process essential oils. So if you have cats or a cat and you're constantly using essential oils in your house, you could kill your cat because they have no way to process and get rid of those very powerful chemical compounds. Same thing with dogs. A lot of people think, oh, well, if this works for me, I'll give it to my puppy. But it's, consider it like aspirin. You can take an aspirin and cure your headache, but if you give it to a cat, it will die. There are certain things that animals can react positively to that we don't, and vice versa. I mean, they like to cure an upset stomach by eating a bunch of grass. I have never done that to cure an upset stomach. I don't think that munching on my lawn is going to help me when my tummy hurts. So we do different things, and you really need guidance. You just don't take off on your own and figure that out, because you can really harm and possibly kill your animal.
Yeah, we don't want to do that. And my goodness, with I think neighbors would have a field day if we're out there eating grass in the front yard, right? So
of course, there's my nutty neighbor.
Yeah, I hear she's in the essential oils. She's eating grass now. So
exactly. And without salad dressing.
No, without salad dressing, for sure. Well, and as we're learning about essential oils, what are some of the precautions that we should take, some of the safety precautions?
Well, the first thing to do is educate yourself. I always say I wrote my book to introduce people to essential oils, and that's why it's called Essential Oils for Beginners. My other book, which is called The Healing Art of Essential Oils. I handle 50 oils, and I handle a lot of things that you can do with the oils, including emotional and spiritual and magical applications. But my beginner's guide, The Essential Oils for Beginners, really takes you through your first experience of an essential oil, introduces you, and I stop at 20. I really just want to say, okay, look, if I had to go to a desert island and somebody said, if you want to take 20 oils with you, what would they be? I selected those. And, my list of top 20 might differ from somebody else's top 20, but these are the ones that I feel would get me through whatever it was I was going to encounter after my shipwreck. So I would have this batch of 20, and I take everybody through what they are, what they do, how they were discovered, a little tiny bit of the history, just to let everybody know that, we're not alone. This isn't a fad. It didn't happen yesterday. We actually have a history of this behind us, many civilizations. And even in World War I, for example, and World War II, they used essential oils on the battlefield because that was the only thing they had to help the wounds. The Spanish flu was fought in Spain using essential oils, and that helped get some of the modern doctors involved with using them. And that, one thing begets another, and the way that they sanitized the hospitals in Spain during the Spanish flu was by using a mixture of essential oils. And there has been a lot of research around the world, unfortunately not so much in the United States, but in Israel, in Italy, and actually in Egypt. There are quite a few institutes that are dedicated to using essential oils for curing some of the most prevalent diseases, including cancer. They're doing a lot of research now. There's some promise. There aren't any answers right now, but there's a lot of promise, and there's a lot of development with essential oils. There are even hospitals now allowing patients to have a patch of essential oils if they want to in the OR. Peppermint, for example, can cure nausea or can help assist nausea. Lavender is a calming nervine that can help relax a person. So they're starting to hospitals are starting to offer patches of essential oils that will help you get through whatever it is whatever procedure you're having.
So in your book, you talk about carrier oils. What are those?
Carrier oils is how you dilute them. So when you look at that little brown bottle filled with your essential oil, you're going to look at that and you're going to say, this is dynamite in a bottle. Now, how am I going to break this down? This has been distilled and condensed, and you have the most powerful compound of that essence in the bottle. So you don't want to just pop that lid and say, let me take a whiff of this, or you don't want to take a dot on your wrist and rub it together and say, boy, I like that. No, it's very, very powerful, and it can burn you. I'll just tell you one little horror story. I was at a book signing up in Santa Barbara, and a young woman walked in and said, I need to ask you some questions about essential oils. And I said, well, sure. Let me finish some of the signing. And she had a scarf around her neck, and she took the scarf off, and she said, I burned myself. And I said, I can see that. She had a big, dark mark on her, from her neck down into her chest. And I said, bergamot. She said, how'd you know? I said, because it is, it's an oil that you should not use and go out into the sun. So she said, yes, I did. I did my yoga class at the beach, and I put some bergamot on. I said, well, that's the same thing with lemon and most citruses. But you have to know that. You have to know that you could have a problem with the rays of the sun, and that gets into the molecules of the oil that can cause your skin to burn. So she said, what should I do? What oil can I use? And I said to her, you need to see your doctor. I mean, this is going to require a laser or some kind of skin repair. I think it can be repaired, or you can just wait, and over time it will it'll kind of get lighter and lighter, but still, if you really want to fix it, you have to go see your medical professional. So we can hurt ourselves, and that's why we dilute them. We dilute them so that we don't get them too strong or take them or wear them out into the sun. If you're going to use, let's say you're going to make a face cream and it has a little lemon oil in it, you wouldn't put that on for day cream. You would put that on for night, only when you're not going to be in the sun. They're phototoxic if they get involved with the rays of the sun, which are, very strong and very powerful, as we know from just getting a sunburn. Imagine adding an oil to that is phototoxic. So we dilute them for the same reason. We don't want them to be too strong. We don't want them to be too weak. So you learn how to dilute things. If you have a chronic problem, an emergency, you might use a 25% dilution, but that's for a day or two use. Now, you usually use a 1%, a 2%, 2% for adults, 1% for a lot of children and some of the elderly. But that's with oils that are like lavender and things that are not strong. With tea tree, you'd probably dilute it even more. And I've put together a chart in my book so that people can look at that and read it and understand, and you know how to dilute per drop and per teaspoon, and it depends on what you're going to do. With essential oils, I usually say, what problem do I want to solve? Do I want to solve my upset stomach? Do I want to cure my acne? Do I want to help my dandruff? What is my problem? And then I back into it with the type of essential oils that would be particular to that condition. And I list all of those as well. So you always have choices. There's usually several that are antibacterial, antiviral, or whatever they're going to do. So you you look at the problem, you back into it, and then you look at the age, you put another qualifier in there. How old is the person, or what condition are they in? You never want to use infants at all. Using essential oils around somebody who's 2 is a good thing. I don't use it any earlier than that because the systems have not formed yet. The tissues are not mature enough. So if you have a baby who has, a little infant, a 6-month-old who has a cold, and you want to stream some or diffuse some essential oils in their room, the answer is do not do that. And if you have an elderly person, you also want to respect their condition because, just like in the time of COVID-19, we have to look at susceptibility and whether or not the person has the health to be able to handle something coming into their body, whether it's a virus or an antiviral. So you have to make decisions. One size does not fit all when it comes to essential oils.
Well, on that note, we're going to pause here for a quick break. We've been speaking with Kac Young in regards to her new book, Essential Oils for Beginners. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. We'll be right back after these messages.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
There comes a moment when you realize you're somewhere special, when you discover that each beautiful creature that you see has been rescued from a life of absolute horror and brought to this incredibly free place. Here's where their lives were forever changed and where yours will as well. Discover over 500 tigers, bears, and lions at the brand new visitor center at the Wild Animal Sanctuary just outside Denver. For more information, visit wildanimalsanctuary.org. Discover true freedom at the Wild Animal Sanctuary.
Have you ever had the sense that your thoughts might actually be doing something? Ancient secrets of manifesting have been masterfully revealed in the award-winning book Manifesting 1-2-3 by Ken Elliott. For the first time, the author's experiences and stories in this book describe exactly how your thoughts can create anything. You've been doing this all your life, but it's never been fully explained for you until now. Visit manifesting123.com for more information today. Manifesting123.com.
Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. We're here today with special guest, Kac Young, and she's sharing with us her new book, Essential Oils for Beginners. Now, Kac, before we went for break, we were talking about the importance of people educating themselves when they start to work with essential oils. This is one of the main reasons that I really enjoyed this book. It really gives people a place to start, regardless if they've been kind of dabbling in it for a little while, or if it's something that they really are getting into.
Yeah, and that's really it. If we're going to deal with a paint and paint a picture, we're going to learn about the qualities of what the oil paints do and how we clean our brush and how we prepare our canvas. And that's just like what you do with essential oils. Give yourself a basic education and really steer away from the people who are selling products and having in-home demonstrations. That's not where you're going to learn anything that's really useful to you or can prevent harm. Those little meetings are very harmful to people because they get all caught up in the excitement without the education, and then they go home and they get in trouble. And, there's a lot of reports about emergency room conditions where people have come in saying, yeah, well, I just took this and put it here, and yeah, and even when you use essential oils in the bath, you always use something that disperses it, and that's not Epsom salts. There's a couple of products, Nature's Sorb and Polysorb are two things that you can use, but it disperses the oil correctly, because if you are in the bath and some of those molecules or those droplets touch your skin, remember oil and water doesn't mix, that you could burn yourself. You could harm yourself, especially in the tender areas of your body. You could surprise yourself, and you might not like the results.
Yeah, you just have to be really careful. Now, do essential oils last a really long time? What does that look like?
Well, that's a really interesting question. Every essential oil has a different shelf life. Of course it does. That's why we have to keep learning. It's like when you're learning a language, where do you put the verbs? At the beginning of the sentence, at the end of the sentence, in the middle? So you have to learn, just like you're learning a language, you have to learn what they do and how to do it with them. And so it's, it's a process, yeah, and my book is great for that. Even at the back, I have an A to Z list of situations and complaints that we have that essential oils can help. And I've divided it down. It's very difficult to say, okay, well, do I need an antihistamine? Do I need an antiseptic? Do I need something that's a bactericide? Do I need a vulnerary? What do I need? And until you learn all this, you need help. And so I've kind of made it as easy as I can, and talked about many of the ways that you can use them, whether you use them in a compress, whether you make yourself a little inhaler, whether you have a roller ball. I mean, there's wonderful ways that you can use essential oils. I don't want people to say, oh, I'm afraid of them now. No, it's just cautioning people instead of running out and thinking that they can just do this without an education or self-education. They have life-changing properties and abilities, and you can use them with your life and with your medications. You just have to know which ones not to use if you're taking a particular, like say if you're taking a blood thinner. There are some essential oils that are not compatible with blood thinning medicine. So you just know then, you say, okay, well this, I won't use that now while I'm on this medication. But there are also things that you can do that will help you. Like, if you want to lose weight, there's 2 or 3 essential oils that you can diffuse half an hour before your meal, and it will help curb your appetite so that you don't go into the kitchen ravenous. You approach a meal saying, okay, I feel a little bit satisfied already. There are lots of helps like that. I know with me and peppermint, if I'm driving a long way or if I'm giving a talk or a lecture at night and it's the end of the day, I have a little locket that is made for essential oils, and it has a little felt shape in it, and I put my essential oils there. So I can just take a little whiff of that, and all of a sudden I feel peppy, and I can handle the 3-hour workshop from 7 to 10. And then I'm using them to help me live my life. And that's how I like to approach essential oils. Invite them into your life. Use them as friends. Get to know them. Chat with them over coffee and learn about each one. I break my book down so that people can learn one essential oil at a time, and by the time you know one of them, you are familiar with their properties, their benefits, their applications, and what you might be able to use them for, whether it's like a physical, a spiritual, or an emotional situation.
So you mentioned this a little bit ago, and I'd like to touch on this because you hear this often. There's and we're not going to talk about specific companies, but there are all these multi-level marketing companies that are in essential oils. Are those good to go ahead and work with, or should we really be looking at other things?
Well, it's interesting. In some of the workshops I've given, someone will come up and say, I'm with such and such a company, and, our products are not labeled organic or well-crafted or 100% pure, but they are. They claim that they have this, and they go from here to here, and they're, and I say, well, here's my rule. If they aren't labeled one of those three things, don't use them. If somebody has grown something in such a manner that they cannot be labeled or considered or qualify for organic, then don't put it in your body. I don't care who made it. I don't care if the king and queen made it and gave it to you as a royal gift. If it doesn't have that kind of marking on it, don't put it on your body. It's your body. You've got one of them. Treat it very special. Treat it like it's a holy place, because it is, and you don't want to harm it. So there are people who will say, oh, gee, if you have an upset stomach, put a drop of this essential oil in your tea and you'll feel better. Well, how do you know what's in that one drop? How do you know that there's not toxins in it? You're putting it inside your body, so please don't. Please don't. But if you want to go learn something about essential oils, some people who sell them are certified aromatherapists. Now, that's somebody that you want to listen to. But just don't go to an evening where somebody has gotten their certification on a weekend online. That's not what you want. This is science. This is learning. This is accumulation. This is research. And read a book, but read a book from someone who's qualified and knows what they're saying and has put out into the world something that is backed by science and, cannot be refuted. That's what my books do, and that's why my publisher, Llewellyn, likes my work, because we go back and forth, and they will ask me lots of questions. Will justify this. There are some people that have said to me, "Oh, well, I've ingested tea tree oil for decades," and I say, "You're lucky to be alive." And they'll say to me, "Yeah, but it's supposedly good." I said, "No, you don't know truthfully what's in that bottle of tea tree oil. You can do your best and buy 100% pure, organic, or well-crafted, but you're putting that into your body. Why don't you just diffuse it and inhale it instead? It's a safer way to use an essential oil. Now, when you dilute them with the carrier oils, and I'm getting back to your subject that I never fully answered before, carrier oils are also oils that come from different plants and seeds. You have apricot kernel, for example, and that has a lot of complementary properties to use. In my book, I even break down the type of carrier oil to use if you're trying to solve a skin problem, for example. There are certain carrier oils that are more conducive. Seed oils in general are great for skin. And there are some oils that are great to help with wounds. There are some oils like jojoba that already contain an antibacterial component. So you add antibacterial essential oils to that, and you're getting a bit of a double whammy. It's a carrier, so it carries your oil into the body, dilutes it, and adds its own properties. And so there you've got, a buy one, get one free kind of an approach to essential oils and healing.
Well, and I would think also, if you're using it topically or inhaling it, it gives you you have better control over it, because you don't know if you're allergic to anything that you could be ingesting, so it might smell really good, but, if you're looking to ingest it, like the lady that said she was using tea tree oil, you have no idea. Well, that's also toxic, but you have no idea if you could be allergic to it and what that would cause.
Well, exactly, and I always suggest that you do a patch test. That we get home from the store and we're all excited. Ooh, I want to use this oil. Here's what you do: you mix 1 drop of your oil with 1 drop of a carrier oil, and you put that. I always use inside my elbow, and I will see in half an hour if I have any reaction. Then just to double check, I'll put a Band-Aid on it. Now, if I have a reaction to it and my skin starts to get red, then I will take that off with a cotton ball and olive oil. I will get that off me. Soap and water, remember, doesn't really help you with essential oils because oil and water don't mix. But you can take it off with an olive oil or a carrier oil and get that off your skin. You now know that that is not a good oil for you. Some oils come from the ragweed family, and a lot of people have allergies to that. So you're going to see, whoop, there's a little dot of red coming up on my skin. So get that off your body, and that's not a good essential oil for you. The patch test is amazing. You put a little Band-Aid over the one, okay, I don't have a reaction to that. I'm going to put a Band-Aid over this, and I'm going to wait till tomorrow. So I'm going to look tomorrow morning, and I'm going to see if I have any reaction. If I don't, okay, that oil is generally safe for me to use because the body tells you the truth. The body will say, yes, that's good for me, or get that off me. So you just let your body and the essential oils speak to each other. So if you've just gone out there and bought yourself, like, say, a bottle of eucalyptus oil, and you have a reaction to it, then you give it to a friend. You say, here, have this on me, love and kisses. But I wouldn't put anything like that into my body or on my body if I'm going to have a reaction. And there are there are people who have overdone lavender, and they have a sensitization to lavender. And that shows up. I had a friend who sensitized herself to lavender. She had it diffusing in every room of her house, and she made it into a perfume in a roller ball, and she just overdid it. And then one time she went to a city and stayed in a hotel where they had used lavender in their laundry detergent for their sheets, and she was up all night long with big red eyes, and she had sensitized herself, and she also had difficulty breathing. So now she can't have anything lavender. And if you think about it, we've got lavender scents in a lot of our products now, from our laundry detergent to, to creams to even muscle rubs. So we have to be very careful that we don't overdo something because that's going to live with her for the rest of her life.
Yeah, I mean, and lavender, it's got such a great smell. You don't want to burn yourself out on it, So
that's exactly right.
Now, have you ever had a problem personally with essential oils?
No, I haven't. I've been very fortunate with that because I study things before I use them. I did have a little tiny thing where I bought a bracelet in a store, and it was one of the lava rock bracelets, which I loved, and they said, "Oh, let me put some of our new fragrance on that for you." And they didn't put a carrier oil in it, and so I put that bracelet on my arm to do a talk at their shop. And within about half an hour, I had some red marks around my arm. So I used that as looky, here's what happens, and here's how we solve it. So I took the bracelet off, and then I just used a carrier oil and soothed my arm, and the redness went down. But because they hadn't diluted it, and I'm actually glad that it did happen, because then I was able to say to them, okay, you have to add a carrier oil when you are going to soak a lava rock piece of jewelry in there, because somebody puts it right against their skin, and looky, this is what happened. So they were all very sorry and very, repentant. But it was a good lesson for them, for me, for all the people that were in the audience, because I usually would have checked and said, have you diluted that? But I didn't. I was busy talking to people. And so, there you have it. That's really the only thing that has happened to me. But then I'm careful, except for that one time when I wasn't.
Well, it's a good story, and it gives an example of how something it would seem so simple could cause a reaction. And so you really have to pay attention around essential oils when you're using them.
Yeah, you do. And it taught me again, it brought home to me the point that I know, but, until you experience something, it really doesn't. Sometimes, we're tough learners. So it showed me the truth of, hey, I was, and this was ylang ylang, and I did not expect that to happen from that particular oil. But undiluted, anything, as harmless as it may seem, can end up to be problematic.
So let's say our listeners, so they've got your book and they're ready to go shopping for their essential oils. What would you suggest that they pick up first?
Well, I would say, I always love lavender, tea tree, and lemon. I would suggest those three, or and I would add like eucalyptus in if you can do four. Buy those because you can use them in so many different ways, and lavender's properties were actually discovered by a French chemist who was working with a perfume company, René Gattefoy, and he had an injury on his hand, and it developed gangrene. Well, he knew some of the properties of lavender oil, and he had that in his lab because he was working on that for different perfume formulas. And he immersed his hand in the lavender oil, and he noticed that the gangrene over a few days was beginning to disappear. So that's when he said, okay, I love this so much that I'm now going to work with doctors in Lyon, and we are going to figure out how we can use essential oils medicinally. And so he began to do that. He wrote the first book called Aromatherapy, and he wrote the French book. He coined the title Aromatherapy out of his studies with the doctors and with the scientific community in France. And he also is the one who discovered the hospitals in Spain were using essential oils for the Spanish flu. So he really got turned on by all this. And one of his students, Jean Vernet, used lavender, frankincense on the battlefield when he tended to the wounded soldiers in World War I and some World War II. So that's kind of an interesting history of how it all started. But it began by, an experimentation, and he discovered the properties on his own hand, and there was no scarring. Eventually, he kept applying the lavender oil, and there was no scarring and no sign of the gangrene. And, mostly if he'd gone to a physician, they would have said, that hand has to come off, and then he wouldn't have had his hand anymore. So,
oh, wow.
I know. That's a true story.
That's but it shows just how this can work, and not that we're telling people to do that, but I mean, it has this long history.
Yeah, it has a long history, and people who understand the properties of essential oils are great. I mean, about 15 miles from me, Robert Tisserand runs his organization. He has written a very thick book on the scientific properties of essential oils, and it is my Bible. He has broken everything down in terms of its chemical components and all of its problems and its effects and what it does. And so you can look at this. It's it's science, and it's very good to have around because I can check everything in there, and he updates it every few years with the new oils that are coming out. There's some new oils coming out of Australia, for example, and they're fascinating oils. So he'll be right on it, and you'll have the information according to his analysis. So in this world, we are very careful and very serious about using these properties. So it's not just, woohoo, let's all get together, have a glass of wine, and try this stuff out. This is, a serious use that can help humankind move forward in a gentler, better way.
I would agree with you on that. I mean, while there's so many medications out there And of course, medicine has its place, its proper place. I mean, you do want to see your doctor and consult with your doctor, but when I look at my own personal health, I look at the side effects that some different medications have. So if I'm feeling anxious or having problems sleeping, I would prefer to work naturally if I can with that than to look at taking a pill.
Well, that's true, because some things can become addictive in the body, not just in terms of a real, the type of addiction that you need a 12-step program for, but just addictive that your body gets so used to a certain type of drug that it can't function normally because it needs that compound. And it's much better to begin to use a lot of these natural ingredients, because when you do that, you're also saying to yourself, I'm in charge. I can do this myself. So you might include a little meditation. You might learn how to, become your own teacher, as opposed to, just popping a pill and relying on something outside of yourself. And I think essential oils bring us closer to our own nature, to the power that we have within to modulate, regulate, and change our own body by changing our reaction to something that is happening outside of us. I know that my spiritual process has been combined with essential oils, what they have taught me, what I have learned, and what I've been able to do. I first look to, what can I solve? How can I solve this myself? And if I can, then I'll choose those avenues and those pathways first, and then if I can't, I will seek medical help, or I will seek medical help anyway, and then make a decision about what is compatible. I don't like the term alternative. I like the term compatible. And because I think that everything is a hologram, everything is holistic, and every piece of information contributes to our well-being, our health, and our long life. So use everything. There are tools in the tool chest. Sometimes you need a hammer, sometimes you need a wrench, and sometimes you need duct tape.
Isn't that the truth, right? Well, what final thoughts would you like to leave our listeners with today?
I would like to leave the listeners with, welcome to this garden of wonderful natural products that you can use to enhance your life, your spirituality, your physicality, and your emotional response to things. Use essential oils, learn about them, educate yourself, bring them into your world gently, as you would a new friend. Get to know them and just have a beautiful life that you can remember, what you learned here and pay it forward. Tell other people about it, and start with a book, start with an education that really will give you the basis for you to be able to have a wonderful life with essential oils.
So, Kac, where can our listeners connect with you and be part of your community?
They can connect with me on two sites. I have a site for the healing art of essential oils, and that's healingartofessentialoils.com. Or you can connect with me on my website, which is kacyoung.com. That's spelled KACYOUNG.com. And I have tabs for all my books and all the things that I specialize in. So you'll find essential oils there. You'll find Bach flowers. You'll find crystals. You'll find all the things that I write about, do, and teach.
Well, Kac, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Marianne, it's an honor always to be on your show and to be able to put forth the work that I love to your audience. So I thank you deeply.
My goodness, thank you, Kac. It's always such an honor to spend time with you. I thoroughly loved your book, Essential Oils for Beginners. It's a great resource even for people who have been in essential oils for some time. Again, if you'd like to connect with Kac, you can at kacyoung.com for more information. Essential Oils for Beginners is available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers, and of course, it's available on Kindle. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.